Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. It's another Monday afternoon and Edwin joins me. Hi, Edwin.
G'day, Martin. How you going?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, working with Jose. He's been watching your video posts, and we're reading all about the rental crisis and the rental stress all over Australia, and he's chipping in.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it's a very concerning story. Of course, I published my latest stress mapping today. This is rental stress, because what amazes me is how little focus there has been on the real cornerstone of rental stress, which is huge, right? It's been bad for a long time, but it's really getting out of hand now. And I just counted up quickly over the last week how many mortgage stress versus rental stress stories there were, and this, huge ratio towards mortgage stress. Everyone wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about rental stress, which is it's a big deal.
Look, it is, and I mean, there's so many voices out there that are calling for all sorts of things and talking about all sorts of different things. And but you and I have been pretty much on the our fingers being on the pulse all along with regards to the rental side of the property market, as as I've always said, and I've written about in LinkedIn and talked about in with other publications, the AFR domain, and and God knows whoever else I've spoken to and written, and they've quoted me with this issue of the renters have the issue and the lackadaisical approach that the governments have taken over the last 2.5 decades, and we are where we are now, and it's only going to, again, it sound like a broken record, but it's only going to get worse before it can get better. And if anything was implemented right now, it's going to be anywhere between 5 and 7 years to fix this one. And in the meantime, what do single parents do? What do the young families do? What do people that are working less hours per week? What do they do? How are they going to be accommodated? And that's without talking about the immigration lever that you and I are poised and waiting that will be pulled soon, and that's going to increase the stress, and not only in Sydney but in all parts of Australia.
That's right, Edwin. And it's interesting to note how many people who are in the rental sector have been served with significant rental rises now, 5 to 9%, quite typical. And in some cases, they're having to move or find somewhere cheaper, but then they can't find anywhere cheaper unless they go a long way out, or find something with, less good facilities, or mold or whatever. I mean, it really is an absolute disaster area. More than 2 million households are now actually in rental stress, according to my numbers. And yet, there are people over on YouTube and Twitter saying, you're a drama queen. No, I'm not. This is real numbers. These are real people. And, the consequences of this, plus the higher inflation, it's going to hurt those households for years and years.
Look, definitely, Martin. There's a lot more at play as well with regard. If it was just an individual, like a single person or a couple with no kids, but when you're dragging children along, when you're dragging pets along as well, it's a different conundrum that people are facing. You've got to relocate. It's not only relocating, but it's also reaccommodating the kids in schools or in high schools. And as you said, you go further out where there's no infrastructure. There's been really no thought over the last 2-3 decades with what was going to happen with a lot of the infrastructure. I mean, we go back to 2019 podcast when we put out the blog on all roads lead to the CBD. Yeah. That's where the focus has been, and why it's because that's where the bloody politicians and parliamentarians live in close by, in close proximity, and that's where they historically have worked. You've had from the early 80s where we wanted to decentralise Sydney, over the mountains and create the second city that got hit on the head. And there's all sorts of things that have happened along the way since then. And the governments have knocked real good positive infrastructure to be built further out on the head, because it didn't win them votes, so they didn't have to. And this is now where the political parties are going to find out very soon, I hope, that that renters vote, that families that are in rental households, they vote, and they will voting these bastards out. I mean, look, one of the things that really caught my attention last week, Martin, was interesting. It was on Sky News, where they were interviewing the CEO of Yellow Brick Road. And he's talking about how he didn't believe. Look, my take on it, I could be wrong, but my take on it was that he was saying that how he really didn't see. It was on a Tuesday night. The interview was on a Wednesday, and on the Tuesday night prior, he was out in Canberra, and he saw that the restaurants were full and were packed, and it was young people eating and that. I felt I really had to restrain myself from replying to that interview and that tweet, because we're talking about a city that is predominantly made up of public servants. Of course, they haven't had any hardship in the last 2 years. That's not where the stress is going to be. You're going to see the stress out in Mount Druitt. You're going to see the stress out in your Liverpool LGAs, your Blacktown LGAs, your parts of your northwest region, and so forth. As you bring out, that's where you're going to see your rental stresses. Not in the bloody heart of Canberra, where it's where the restaurants are full of politicians and public servants.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of half true, although actually rental stress is quite high in Canberra because the rents are very high there. But no, you're right, that the worst of it is absolutely in those same outer suburban areas where there's been underinvestment, where people are actually not earning as much, they're paying a lot more for getting around, all of those things. And I come back to this point, rental stress is a combination of very high rents plus the cost of living, which are, higher than ever. And as we said before, the official CPI bears no relationship to what the real numbers are. And then, as you say, they're going to open the immigration shutters and bring a few more people in just to add more fuel to the fire. So it's not looking good. But
it's not looking matters. But Jose's out there, Martin. Jose's out there, and he's building his high-rise development. So maybe you can show the viewers what he's building. Well, I'm helping him. He can only pass me the nails. And we're helping them along. We're up to stage 2 of the development. The penthouse comes in a week's time.
Looks pretty impressive, I must say. Yeah, all mod cons, got views. I assume it's got water as well, somewhere around there. It's all set to ready to go. Free
water, free food, free feed. If you like, grain. If you want to be a free range, come along. And if you like to sleep out.
Well, it's very apropos, because of course they're now saying that there's an egg shortage, right? But you're already ahead of the curve.
We're ahead of the curve, Martin. We're ahead of the curve. Egg shortages, and what else? Look, we're not going to talk about food shortages, because that's when Jose gets a little bit stressed.
Oh, you mean chicken? Yes. Shh.
Yeah. Look, in all this, Martin, the question that I want to ask is, where is the middle ground? Where is the balance in all this? I mean, there was an article in the Guardian with a young lady that penned her thoughts, and she was put her thoughts to this publication, and it was rather interesting to hear what she had to say and who she was blaming. What her idea was as to who was to blame, and the belief that around the how to deal with these issues. I think also more interesting in that particular tweet of the young lady that wrote the article was all the commentary that came afterwards. And then I began to think, but where is the middle ground? Who do we blame? Do we blame the millennials? Do we blame the boomers? Do we blame the politicians? Who do we blame? And where is the middle ground? Where is the middle ground when you've got rates rising and you've got landlords that have to make these maintain these properties that are falling apart around them because of the age, which you and I have talked about in the past as well. So where is the middle ground?
No, good point. And you made actually a very important point here. 1/3 of the population are renting, rates are going up, the homes are getting older and costing more to maintain, the bills are going broke, the local government red tape's getting worse, not better, and the politicians are owning, multiple investments. So, they're in a different world, right? But I wonder what returns they're making for their investment properties, and whether they've actually thought through the implications of what they're actually doing.
Well, that's the thing, and this is where, if you recall, when Albanese was before the election, I think only one reporter chased him that I'm aware of with regards to negative gearing and whether they were going to knock that on the head. I mean, there's a lot that can be discussed about negative gearing. A lot of people need to understand the fact that negative gearing works with new dwellings predominantly, and most of the gearing that you can claim for is really in the first 4 to 7 years. Yes, you can depreciate the building or the construction over 40 years, but there's not a lot in it. Most of it happens in the first 4 to 7 years when you take into account the inclusions, the fit out basically of the premises. But the majority is in apartments. But who wants to live in apartments? You and I think we've been clear on the fact that there's apartments galore. And there's apartments wherever you turn, and they're trying to build them. And the previous premier, she was proposing 3,000 or so homes, as they call them, but it's really dog boxes adding between Mount Druitt and St Mary's, of all places. And there was another 5,000 or so gazetted over in the northwest between Castle Hill and the northwest region there. And it was, I mean, again, it's dog boxes that do not really accommodate. They're not accommodating for small families, and this is where we've lost the plot. And this is where I come back over and over again. Whether you're talking about rental affordability or whether you're talking about housing affordability for first home buyers to be able to afford to come into the market, you've got to talk about at the grassroots levels, and at the grassroots level where the issues emanate or arise from is the local government, the red tape, where they become so precious about the bloody fibro homes that they, in some LGAs, they're considering making these fibro homes that were built in the 40s and the 50s as national treasures, and they're about to heritage list them, and this is insane.
Oh, it is insane, absolutely. I mean, for all sorts of reasons, not least, of course, because the cost of maintaining them goes through the roof. But, as you and I have both said, Edwin, over many of our shows, these are strategic issues that have gone wrong for many years coming home to roost, right? And you can't just click your fingers and magically solve this, right, unless you change a lot of other things, and that's the culture within councils, the culture within the state, the processes around planning and all of those things. There are things that could be done, but unless you really address it holistically, it's not going to change. And in the meantime, of course, everyone's just worried about throwing more stuff up, and construction sector wanting to build cheaper and cheaper. We're just building bigger slums.
Bigger slums. I recall the one of the videos that I put out that was featured in a lot of the mainstream media outlets, and this is 8-9 years ago, we put out with Jennifer Duke, and that was we called it the $1 million ghettos, the apartments that were built in and around the Waterloo and those areas there. How they were badly constructed, they were falling to bits, and that's where you got. And it was just really up the road from where I shot that video. Was literally 2 buildings up from Mascot Tower. Yep. Building. So it's amazing how obviously we look at you've got to follow the money, and as when you follow the money, you're able to see as to why certain government policies move in a certain direction. I mean, that's just a given. I mean, but look, I guess the thing that we want to raise here is one of the other points that I wanted to raise in this particular segment, and also after I watched your video, Martin, earlier today, and that is a time that we start considering, and the government should start considering turning the commercial dwellings into residential dwellings, particularly and given the fact that there's still a lot of people and there's still a lot of vacant commercial space in the CBDs and in the hubs.
No, I think that's exactly right, Edwin. And in fact, I put up this slide. This is actually from my live show, which shows that there's wide ranges of stress, not just in the urban fringe, but actually in other areas too, including, very importantly, closer into the city, right? We have massive issues there. So if some of those properties that were closer in that are now semi-vacant simply because people are working at home and commercials are not actually what they were, it actually offers an interesting path to a different style of living, and it actually may I think they've already got infrastructure there, right? So it's not like you've got to build roads and rail stations to be able to actually service them, right? It's there, but it takes an attitude of mind and a change of heart as to how the planning rolls through. And the question is, do they have the nous to actually go there, or will the owners of those commercial properties hold out for commercial rents later rather than actually seeing this as an alternative route? That's the key question.
Yeah, and the question, and who's going to buy it and at what price? Because commercial space is dictated by the rental return. That's your rule of thumb way of working out what commercial space is worth. I mean, yes, what type of tenancy you're going to have, whether it's a AAA, AA, or AAA tenant, and so forth, all determines the value of the property. But give me a AAA tenant these days, apart from a government department, that if they falter, they can walk away and pay the balance, because you can, although when you lease commercial space, you could chase the owner of that, or the director of the company. You can, it's a different scenario from residential. So there's all these things, as you said, Martin, all these implications, all this change of way of thinking, how we approach it. But people have got to start realising, and local governments have got to start realising that not only are we not allowing, substantive or good, medium density. I always go back to the medium density as opposed to the high rise. Not only are we not allowing the medium density development close to the central hubs, but we're also forcing, and this is where people don't realise, we're forcing people, these government departments don't realise how much we're forcing people to live in homes that are absolutely full of all sorts of issues, from asbestos to lead paint, to mold issues, particularly in these terraces, in these homes that have got poor ventilation. People are choking with, they're not opening the windows and doors because of there's so much being built around them, and keeping the moisture in. So you've got all these issues, apart from the fact that a lot of these dwellings are also coming on to 100 years old. So a lot of these dwellings are falling around people. So we've got to that point where it's not just the federal government, it's not just the state, but it's a combination of all governments to come together and start putting something in place. The question, again, goes back to, and perhaps the bigger question is, do they really want to change things, Martin? Or what is their real agenda?
I think that's a very great point, Edwin. And look, having spent a number of years trying to get people to, change direction on things, it seems to me that they actually do have a very blinkered view of what the truth is and how to tackle it. And they also tend to want to do it very incrementally rather than holistically. So, they'll talk about, shared equity or whatever, right? Or encouraging first home buyers or migration, but they don't put the puzzle together. They don't see it holistically, and that's the problem. Because unless you actually see the big picture and how the mosaic fits together, you're never going to be able to solve this.
No, and that's the sad part about it. But look, I think with a lot of these dwellings closer to the CBD, I've been, we inspect homes all over Sydney, and I can tell you there's a lot of places where I wouldn't put my ex-mother-in-law in, it's crazy how people are living without knowing what conditions they're living in, and the changes to that George often speaks about, the changes to the Rental Tenancies Act and the regulations are going to come down strong, and it's going to, God willing, it's going to expose a lot of the shortfalls and the shortcomings that a lot of these properties have in providing proper and adequate and safe accommodation for tenants. If people only realise and people only knew, what they were living with, they'd be running a million miles. Or the other question, or would that? Because then they're attracted to this lifestyle because of, as we spoke earlier on, because of the work that they that's close by proximity, the work, education, or the lifestyle, which you can't seem to find in a lot of parts of Sydney when you go outside of the hubs, and the lack of infrastructure.
I agree with you. Well, it's an ongoing debate. We'll go on pushing and lobbying and trying to get people to change their tunes, but strategically, it's a big ask. And I guess there's another strategic question up in China, right? If you take the latest from the WeChat chat, more people are heading for the exit.
Look, they are. There's a lot more people heading for the exit. There's, there's now reports, as you and I have been speaking about again for quite a while, how the wealthy are getting out. A lot of the wealthy have gotten out already. And if you're well connected with, your family's well connected with the military, well, you're going to have pretty much an exit strategy. But there's more and more, the more pressure that comes on the with the economic climate there in China, what they're going through, more people wanting to go out, and it's a greater mass. Obviously, the government's putting stronger policies and stronger measures in place so that people won't be able to leave, but they'll try one way or another, because particularly now with months ago, the majority view was that the mainland Chinese always believed that it was going to be a slow walk into Taiwan. But now that what we've gone through, what we saw last week, and what's evolved from last week, and what's happening now with these with China, what's happening there with the military, with the naval forces and everything, and basically they're playing out a strategic role playing, how they basically could potentially now walk into Taiwan, and that's really putting a lot of fear into the people in mainland China, because they now what used to be the majority thought point, that it was going to be a slow walk over the next 3 to 5 years into Taiwan. Now it's becoming a reality, and a lot of people are saying it could be before the end of the year. That's what they're saying on WeChat. Whether or not that's going to happen, we don't know. But but there's a lot of stress, so they want out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you look slightly more broadly than just China, other countries are also making noises about saying, well, Australia's quite good. People who are affluent can get out and come down here, and the doors are open here. Bring some money, buy some property.
Well, yeah, and Dom was just over in Japan, Korea, and South Korea, and India, and spruiking New South Wales. So look, we know that there's a lot of affluent people and very wealthy people, not only in China, in terms of the Asian community. You've also got your Malay people from even from the Philippines and other islands that will come here, and becomes very attractive in terms of work. And there's plenty of work, there's plenty of jobs on offer, and there are industries here that are screaming for manual labour and for that type of work that most of the people that don't want to do the job, that manual labour work here in Australia anyway. So it's again, but then all of that, Martin, adds to the rental crisis. And then are we just going to revert back to having 2-bedroom apartments turn into 6-8 bunk accommodations again, to what we had the pre-pandemic in the predominantly between 2015 and 2018? Is that where we're headed back? Are we headed back to having garages converted into illegal granny flats in order to accommodate people because there's nothing else? And what types of rents are they going to be demanding? So it is a real mess that is going to that is unfolding. And it's about to play out. And again, you've got the builders that are going broke. So there's no more, a lot of places, people are fearful of buying these home land packages because they don't know whether or not the builders are going to basically complete. And a lot of it's happening in the southwest region with a lot of ethnic builders as well, small to medium tier builders. So you're seeing a lot of this play out, and yet, we're going to have a mass intake of migrants. And look, I don't care who you are, but we said all along that whether it was going to be the libs or the labs, that immigration lever was going to be pulled, and I believe it's going to be coming a lot sooner than what a lot of people expect it will be.
No, I think that's exactly right. And we touched the other day on our last show on the sale of land out in the urban edge, right, to try and build more stuff, and the fact that some of the local WeChat chatchers are still being quite creative in terms of the way that they're actually offering accommodation or bits of accommodation or trading out of their garage. I mean, do we want more of this? Is that where we're going to end up, do you think?
But that's it. Is that our future? We're going to be. It's almost like we're going to be recreating all sorts of different economies. There's the cash economies that seem to be rising. There's the barter economy that's rising. There's all these things that are in a way, I would think, perplexing the state and the federal governments, because But then there's the other train of thought, Martin. If things get out of hand so much, then what's the alternative? Back into lockdown, back into submission, and is it a prelude to does all this chaos have to happen before the Great Reset? Is this what it's all about? The digital currency? Is this it? Is this what I'm saying? Is this playing out the way it's meant to play out? For what's already been programmed to happen in the near future. I mean, you can't stop but think about these things, because surely, there's got to be a couple of brain cells between the politicians.
Well, one or two between them, maybe, if you're lucky. But
maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's go on and talk about numbers, right? Because the numbers, well, up and up and up and up.
Well, look, they are, Martin, and it's rather interesting. I just lost my here we go. Look, we've had. Look, we're certainly climbing. We're certainly climbing north. We get heading further north, because let's not forget that we've only got another 3 weeks of winter, and then we hit spring. And with everything that's been happening, what we are seeing is that not only that there's a lot more properties coming on market in a large number of the suburbs in Sydney, but also there's a lot of properties staying on market, which creates a further volume that are yet to be transacted, and it just adds more pain to sellers. So it's becoming more and more a buyer's market, and a market which buyers can certainly dictate the terms and dictate the price. But still, look, I think we're only from, if I was to look at a crystal ball between now and the end of the year, I think we're only probably halfway through the falls that we could expect in a lot of the suburbs. But what I am seeing, Martin, is the local WeChat chatterers, as well as Indian families that are cashed up, starting to move into investment properties in that band, in that bracket that you would think was a good bracket for the first home buyers to jump into. So everything that the governments have done of past and current, all that's done is just making it harder for first home buyers to actually afford a home, and not only afford but keep a home and not go into negative equity.
Absolutely. Well, the first time numbers are dropping significantly. The refinancing are up, but investing is still quite strong if you look at the mortgage numbers. And yes, I think that's one of the factors that we need to think about. Remember that back in 2017, everyone got worried by the boom in property investment because it ended up making it impossible for first-time buyers to get in. Now that the borrowing power has been reduced by about 20%, first-time buyers are really struggling to get in. Property investors can still transact and they can still very much, go ahead. So this is another reason why, again, the market is being distorted.
Yeah, and this is, and because of the initial conversation with rental stress and the issues around it, and the non-availability of good housing, well, that's only increased the rents. I mean, this is why people, the shortage of homes on market are only around at the moment. I think they're about just under or just a little bit over 4,000 homes on market in the Sydney region. And that's not a hell of a lot when you think about the fact that there's 634 or so suburbs in Sydney, in the Sydney metro. So do the math on that. That's really not a lot per suburb that are available to be leased. And then you've got landlords that they're okay with property staying on market a lot longer because and demanding high rental income, because sooner than later they're going to get it. It's not, so from the rental side of things, there's a huge increase in rental prices. You mentioned about 9% rise overall in the last month or so. And some people are talking on social media that they've received rental increases of anywhere up to 27% increase and still the agents are telling them that they're still below market rent. Even with that type of increase. So it's playing out. This world is just upside down.
Well, talking about upside down, let's just look at the auctions. So there are a few, but the numbers are still relatively down, and the clearance rates were once again, well, they were pretty low, weren't they?
Look, they're low. Also, one of the other things that we need to keep in mind and keep an eye on is the simple fact that a lot of these that may be on offer by the time we get to Thursday, Friday, a lot of them go MIA. So there's an increase in withdrawals in non-reported auctions as well. So all that tells you is that the sentiment around sales is just dim, and it's very, very low. So it's well and truly, and as the numbers rise and keep on going upwards towards spring, it is going to be an interesting spring for people that are wanting to get out of the market or sell, downsize, upside, whatever, and those that want to get into the market. So there's going to be a lot of interesting discussions, over the next within the next three weeks or so.
Absolutely. Well, here we come, and now, what's wackier than the conspiracy theory, Edwin?
What's wackier than a conspiracy theory, Martin? Oh, well, when property prices are dropping faster than Pelosi can eat a tub of ketchup sauce or mayonnaise flavoured ice cream that they're now serving in your part of the world, Martin, in England.
Well, they've got nothing else to do. So what's this then? So property prices down, eh?
Yeah, look, this is what a lot of people need to pay attention. I mean, there's, I put a lot of this stuff up on Twitter, as well as you've got others in the Twitterati club that also put out some interesting tweets as to see what's happening live out there. And the wacky thing about these two properties, they sit side by side. The property that went to auction just recently was a much better home, better inclusions, much better fixtures, and has a lot more to offer than the home next door that got sold 3 weeks ago. So the home next door that got sold 3 weeks ago got sold for $3,180,000, and the one that just went to auction, apart from the funny things that my client puts up on his on our conversations, he got past him. And the guide, Martin, he was guiding mid to high threes, low to mid threes, and then he got then they revised the guide to 2.8, and he was still 2.8 on the Saturday. Now, when he went to auction, there was no bids, and yet the guide was 2.8, which is $380,000 less than the inferior property got sold only 3 weeks ago, and so this is what vendors can expect, and this is how quickly the market can turn in certain areas that were bought in 2020, 2021 with a lot of hype, and the prices were just overly inflated, to the point, Martin, where the comment that my client makes, he says, when I said, so number 8, look, I said in response to his message to me, I said, number 8 looks to be a much better house with more inclusions. On face value, the one that got 3.18 million looks ordinary. And then he writes back and he says, yeah, that's correct. The agent that sold the 3.18 house came to the first open home and said that number 8 was better than the one he sold. So agents are telling you what's really happening live. And this is, and yet you see a lot of mainstream media articles still, pushing the hype here and there, out-of-line sales, as you and I have been talking about, in trying to spruik the market. But in reality, the market can slip south a lot quicker than you can whistle Dixie, or a lot quicker than than you can. I don't know, throw a boomerang. I don't know. I just can't come up with an Australian colloquial analogy. But it's rather interesting that even the agents themselves, talk amongst themselves. And my client caught that conversation, and he just reported. So it's it's not wacky. It's the current market climate that we're in, and we can expect to see a lot more of these sort of scenarios playing out, where you've got superior property, achieving 10, maybe even 12, 15% below market of inferior property that just got sold not months ago, but only weeks ago.
Absolutely, Edwin. And I like the comment about where is the higher crowd, right? Because obviously nobody much turned up.
No, that's right. Where is the higher crowd? Yeah, he's funny. This client's funny. He makes some funny comments. I cut out some of the other bits, but if they want to get to the funnier parts, they can. People can see that the full story on Twitter.
Absolutely, no, it's hilarious. Now, the other thing that's worth just reflecting on before we finish is negative equity, right? So now, in the media and even on realestate.com.au, this comment about negative equity is now coming back into force.
Well, I mean, this segment should be called, "We told you so." We should do like, "We told you so." This is the "We told you so" segment. I mean, who'd have thought, right? Who'd have thought that? Who'd have thought that all this money being thrown at first-time buyers, and and this is the unfortunate thing. And I've seen it. I saw it happen in the in the 80s with my uncles, where they jumped on the bandwagons there of buying new subdivisions down Campbelltown way at that time, and they were being supported by the government and all this and all that. And look, I was not much, not that versed on property at the time. I was thinking about other things at the time other than property at that age. But they did their backside, because when the market turned, they were the first ones to basically hand the keys back over to the bank. But unfortunately, we're in a different position where we're not talking about homes that were that were bought for 160,000 or 140,000 with government assistance. We're talking about homes that people have bought, well and truly up to $850,000 with his government assistance, subsidies and schemes and scams, and now they're underwater.
Absolutely. And very interesting, I quite often focus on Mandurah over in Western Australia, right? Because Mandurah is one of those places that really has gone off the rails quite some time ago. I remember somebody quite recently contacted me and said, it's all over. Mandurah is now up again. Everybody's actually above where they were. Well, actually, this last week, I've heard no less than 3 different people over in Western Australia, probably in the Mandurah area, right? All investment properties, all of them still underwater from a capital value perspective compared with when they bought in 2012 and 2013, right? So all of this idea that they're now out of danger zone, well, it's just not true over there. And I want to remind people that negative equity, if it comes, it tends to hang around for a long, long time, right? And it really cramps your style in terms of the mortgages you can get, at what rate you can get them, and moving on or not. I mean, it's really complicated. So that's just an object lesson. Negative equity is a killer, not in the slow sense of the word, but in the long grind that goes on and on and on, because once property prices go down, it takes quite a long time often for them to come back up again.
Yeah, and it's also the extended aftermath of the pressure that's put on a lot of the young families that jump in, that took the advice. I mean, we're talking 360,000 potential buyers over that period of time. And these are potentially 360,000 families that are in a lot of stress. Yep. Emotionally, mentally. God knows, physically, as well as so look, all I can think of in those situations, or from reading these articles that are now coming out, is the ones that are making a lot of money, apart from politicians, definitely will be the lawyers that are now acting on behalf of either party because of the separations and all the issues that come with it. The ones that suffer the most are these young families that with children. I mean, I'm not saying it just keeps on the aftermath of the negative equity. We talk about negative equity. It's just 2 words, negative equity. Most people don't understand what it really means, but it's a greater force than just the 2 words. It's a total demise of a family unit. Yep. or a unit, or a group of people that are just literally being conned.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, the spruikers are still out there saying property prices can only ever go up. They double every 7 years religiously, right? And the truth is just so different. And unfortunately, there are still people who get caught and don't actually understand sufficient about what's going on. But as we say, Edwin, we can only keep saying what we're saying, which is do your due diligence, make sure you know what you're buying, look for property with an upside, all of those things, and don't over leverage, particularly now, because of course prices are going to actually continue, I think, to go sideways and probably down for a bit for all the reasons that we've been discussing. And as we come to the end of the show, Edwin, we want to very, very, very important advice now about your tip of the week. This is a biggie.
This is something just to help people out. So what I try to do is I try to put out 5 points, and I'm going to read it from the lowest order of preference that when you're going in to negotiate a contract, something the lowest to the best position that you can put yourself in, and it's basically around giving the agent ammunition to work on your behalf. Now, yes, the agent is working for the vendor, but you can psychologically, you can help him to work for you to get you to the goal, because the goal that you want to get to in purchasing the property is synonymous with his or her goal, which is the sale of the property under a quicker process and a guaranteed sale, because he guarantees his commission. Because the longer the property lays on the market for sale, stays on the market for sale, the greater the chance that they'll lose the listing and they won't get the commission, but it'll go to the next agent. So having those that in mind, we're just going to, I'm just going to quickly give you those points. So the first point is, I think, is the lowest, in the lowest denominator, and it's very dangerous both to you as a buyer, and it damages the prospects of buying, as well as the chances. Because what happens is it's what we call the buyer's feedback, what the agents ask people for. They just ask for buyer's feedback, market opinion. So what happens in a lot of these cases is that I believe, I don't know about you, Martin, but I think that there's about a good 70 to 80% of the people find it very hard to tell the truth under these situations or under this type of circumstances. What they'll do is they'll give a better answer, they'll give a better response than trying to get to the truth, which in their mind would seem negative, and they don't want to. They don't want to speak bad about the property. So they'll, these market opinions, and this is the market opinion that the agent then takes to the vendor, and it either solidifies in the vendor's mind, oh yeah, the money that I'm asking, the $2 million that I'm asking, I'm on the money, because that is the buyer's feedback. But in reality, the buyers may be thinking, this is a bad property, but they find it hard to say that it's a bad property to the agent. They just walk away, wanting to say something good. So that's the worst case scenario for you as a buyer. Then there's the verbal offer. A verbal offer gives you a little bit of credence, gives you a little bit of a stand, but it's still very low in ranking when you want the agent to work for you on your behalf, because it allows for a lot of other factors to come in. And people aren't really taking it seriously. The vendors aren't going to take it seriously. The agents themselves don't really take it seriously, because the verbal offer is just a verbal offer. You can say, look, I'll give you so much today, but tomorrow it's a different kettle of fish. So you're not really assisting the agent to help you to get the deal across the line, and you're not really helping him see that he's going to collect on the commission. So the offer in writing is when things start getting serious, because offers in writing under the legislation, unless the agent has received themselves a written order, or written order to say, basically, or instructions to say that they're not going to accept any offers below a certain amount, they don't have to present whether it's verbal or whether it's in writing. But I can tell you now that most 99.9% of the time agents don't get that in writing, and if it's in writing, the likelihood of that offer being placed to the agent is going to be presented to the vendor. And in this market, it starts to give the agent that comfort and that security and that feeling, I've got a sale happening here. I've potentially got a nibble, got a fish on the hook, and I'm going to earn I'm going to bring the bacon home. So that's your next. Then, of course, something that puts you in a better position is a signed contract with a cooling off period. So you've had your discussions. You haven't shown all your cards, and next time you see the agent, you are going to be presenting the agent with a signed contract and a cooling off. And unfortunately, these days we don't, we don't have checks to give it, to solidify that even more. Everything is EFTs, but they get the idea, and they're able to take that to the vendor, to the client, and again, you're giving them greater confidence that they're going to get the deal across the line. And the agent's thinking, well, if I massage it a little bit more, I'll get a bit more money. Then the vendor will see that I'm working for them a little bit harder, and I can get them down on their price, and it's a happy story. Obviously, the creme de la creme is, particularly in this market conditions, once you've done all your due diligence, once you know you're 100% there, once you've got the money in the bank, you're not going to have any issues. You're not going to go for a 90% LVR. You've got everything secure. You know that and you want the property. Well, then the creme de la creme is a signed contract with what we call a 66W. That is it. That basically trumps any other offers, any other verbal offers or bias feedback, even if they're talking 30, 40, 50%, depending on the price point of the property. You could climb up to 10% variable in this market condition with a solid signed contract 66W, which basically means you're putting your 10% on the line if the vendor signs the contract, and if you walk away, you're gonna lose your 10%. So you're waiving off your cooling off rights. So that's just my 5 points of how to best your what would you call it, your the criteria or the how to best assist the selling agent to work for and on your behalf, and what empowers them a lot more.
Yeah, and it's worth just underscoring, isn't it, that in this market, an offer in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Definitely, and this is the conversation that the agents will be having with the vendors. The agents will be selling them. First offers. First offers are the best offers because of this market conditions. This is the general speak. They'll be saying first offers are the best offers, and the second thing, an offer in the hand is worth 30, 50,000 potentially, maybe 3-4 months in 3-4 weeks time, or maybe longer, or maybe not.
Yep. And I guess the final point there is that people need to understand that the degree of commitment that they make with an offer does have consequences, right? If you go the 66W route, right, you stand to risk losing that 10%.
Well, that's great. Look, I'm not saying that's what that's why I premise that with. You want to make sure that you've done all your due diligence. You want to make sure that you've got everything you've ticked off. You're just not going to have any issues with finance. You've done your own building and pest checks, which you can. People are the agents are going to be more open to that. Nobody's in a hurry. Too much in a hurry these days to buy property. So you'll have your opportunities, and that has to be with that 110, 150% assurance that you're going to proceed, because once the document signed on the other side, your 10% is on there.
Absolutely. Everyone, that's a very important sort of sequence of thinking, right, which will help people to actually navigate at the moment if they are going to buy. But as we keep saying, do your due diligence first. Make sure that you've ticked all the boxes. Don't just take what the vendor says. Don't just take what the vendor inspection says. Do your own work. Make sure you know. Make sure you've got the mortgage if you need it lined up. Don't just take a provisional offer from a bank as being watertight. Particularly if it was done a few months ago, it could well be very different now. So there's a bunch of things to do first, but then if you can empower the offer and help the agent, then there's more chance of getting across the line. So very important idea there, I think.
Well, look, it is, and it works. And I use, obviously, again, this is just the basic outline. This is just the skeleton. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that goes in it. There's a lot of other things, but it's something that we use, and there's a lot of conversations in between. But you learn to gauge and to see how how willing the agents are going to be to the point, like I said, that signed contract with the 626W, once you've done all your due diligence, can speak a 5% reduction in price to a 10% because it's assured and it's concrete. From a negotiation point of view, that's just it. But obviously, making sure that everything is done properly, and don't go in there half cocked, and then you say all of a sudden you're in the hook for the 10%, and you haven't done any of your proper checks and balances.
Absolutely, Edwin. Well, as always, excellent advice. Thank you very much. And here we are at the end of another rant, but we'll be back next week for another exciting instalment. And once again, things will have changed, so we'll keep trucking.
Well, we will, and if we decide to build a penthouse by then, Martin, we will certainly feature that, because Jose, is he wants he wants that side hustle, and he's hoping that you will use his little videos on one of your other podcasts as well, because he's looking forward for that for that royalty check. He's got 15 mouths to feed now, Martin.
Absolutely. Well, and I assume you'll be installing a rooster cam in the penthouse, right? So you can then bring it straight to YouTube.
Oh, look, yeah. Well, that's it. We'll bring it straight through the DFA channel, and there will be the children's version and the adults only.
Yeah, very good. Edwin,
we'll make more money. We'll make more money after 9, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it's probably right. Yeah. Edwin, thanks very much. See you next week. Take care. Bye bye.